Welcome to Unlocked. I am so excited because we have my best friend Chad on today. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Y'all, I'm so excited. Okay, so Chad, how long have we known each other?
For like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
And he knows more than I think any human being knows about me. And
Or should possibly know.
yes, more than he should possibly know. And we're going to keep it that way, that he's the only one that knows those things. You may get a few little juicy things, but watch what you say.
I will watch what I say. I'm not going to unleash the demons today.
Not today. He will always be on my good side. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited just because this is a time for you guys to get to know me better and for me to introduce the really important people in my life. So, Chad, where do we begin? Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Batesville, Mississippi. Actually, Curtis Station, population 50. 25 of them's my family. The other 25 are probably my cousins down the line. But I've been in Nashville since 2005.
Okay. So yeah. Chad's a good old Southern boy, y'all.
I am.
And two, can we clear the air about one thing before we get started?
What?
We are not dating.
Yeah, please, y'all. There's literally not a lick of love interest here. And I literally mean a lick of love interest, okay? I mean, in that way. We're strictly platonic. I mean, I love her exactly like a sister.
Exactly. And two, there's just, y'all, I literally, I walk around naked in front of Chad.
Yeah, it's just not a thing.
It's not a thing.
Because she doesn't have the equipment that I'm looking for, if you know what I mean. So
I love it. And that's also my favorite thing is I have all these friends that are from so many different walks of life. Mm-hmm. We've got Holly, who is going through a divorce, who has a kid. We've got you. Your
husband.
Yes, exactly. My husband. For those of you that don't know what that means.
Gay husband. Yes. It's the gay husband. I'm the gay husband. Emphasis on gay. Okay? Jesus.
I'm dead. And he is. And that's just, it's so much fun to just live in life with you.
Right. Well, I think that too, there's just such a comfortableness with the both of us because there's no threat of any kind in that sort of way. In a way of you completely trust me, I completely trust you.
Yes.
I mean, completely trust. And there's no tension sexually.
No, definitely. Let me just tell you, y'all. Yeah. I've walked around naked in front of him, and there is no movement. There's nothing. I have to run in there and help her find her earrings that she can't, find that are actually in the cleaner when she's having a panic attack. Oh. Yeah. Chad knows literally everything. He's seen everything.
Yes.
And
vice versa.
That's for damn sure.
Vice versa.
I mean, we have been through relationships together.
Yeah,
breakups. We've been through, real life stuff. And that's been also too, I think, how I operate too, which is I've had a rough few days, y'all. I'm not going to lie. It's been a rough few days for me mentally, emotionally. I don't know it's just been tough. And Chad knows that. And he kind of it just feels good to have people around you that know how you operate, that don't take offense to much and who just know when to step up and step in or
step back, go to my room, because we live together. So, I think that, and your dad has said, I love that you live with Savannah because I know she's protected. I know she feels safe. She doesn't feel alone. And also, again, you're not a threat sexually. So that's great. But, don't let the gay fool you either. Now, if you come up in that house, you're going to be leaving on a gurney. I'm going to mess you up. But because you ain't supposed to mess with my girl. But, ultimately, I know Savannah. I know Savannah probably better than anybody else because we are together literally all the time. I was going to go home and see my niece be in the homecoming court, and I got there and my flight got canceled. Immediately when I got there, I was just like, why did you leave me? I think both of us kind of have separation anxiety when we're not together because we're just used to being together all the time. It's almost like, where do you want to eat? What do you want to eat?
Yeah, it really is. And that was because, y'all, literally all the time we go to we're at our favorite pub. What?
Corner pub.
Yes. like 4 nights a week
Right.
at least. We have dinner together. We will just sit there in silence together.
Right.
And in a way, it's, yes, that's healthy because it's always good to have those really close friends that you know you can lean on.
Right.
But in a way, I also think it's a little unhealthy now that I think about it.
Right, because we are together all the time.
And we're like each other's crutches.
But I will say this. There are times where Savannah, you know, if she's getting back kind of out in the dating cycle, she'll maybe, you know, try to go on a date with somebody and she'll be like, well, why don't you come with me? And I'm like, girl, they can't date both of us. You have got to figure out how to go by yourself. I'm a phone call away. You can totally go and hang out with them. So I do try to encourage you to be a little bit more independent.
You do. And too, y'all, it actually is really funny. So I went on this date with this guy one time and I was scared, right? Because, you know, I like met him on this dating app and don't get me wrong. All right, this guy, what's his name going to be? We'll just call him Wall Street.
Wall Street.
Yeah, we'll call him Wall Street.
Oh, Lord, Terry.
So I went, and again, y'all, I'm not going to put anyone's names out here because like I said before, I don't need to get sued.
Right.
They're not worth that. So Wall Street.
Right.
Met him on this dating app. He's like going to come and visit me. And I'm scared because I don't know if you're the Craigslist killer.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you're Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't know what you're doing to me. So I told him, you know, he was staying in a hotel and we were going to meet up for lunch, I think it was that day. And I was like, hey, yeah, so just, you know, a few of my friends are going to come. Y'all, it was my whole friend group.
Right.
Because I was scared to death.
Right.
So, you know, I had to have Chad with me because he's got a good, like, intuition.
Right. I'm an empath. So I can tell when somebody's being genuine. I can tell when they're being fake. I can tell when they got ulterior motives. All those things, I will figure it out about you real quick.
Yeah. So, you know, Wall Street comes. I bombard him with all my friends. He did great. He was awesome with them. I mean, granted, he's not in the picture anymore, which his loss.
Right.
No, y'all, it's just no shade whatsoever. Honestly, great person.
Right.
But that was one of those instances to where it was like, I just wanted Chad's opinion and I wanted I just felt that sense of safety, which I think I probably made the right decision because going out on a date with someone you meet on an app by yourself the first time
is always a little tricky.
That's a little tricky and I think a little dangerous. So I made the right decision, but I think it was like the second date to where Chad was like, hey, you can go and do this on your own.
Fly, little birdie, fly. You know, and also as much as Savannah needs or doesn't need me there, but as much as I'm there, I can say this, and this is what a lot of people probably don't know about Savannah is, you know, she's very busy in her life in many different aspects, but anytime, before we lived together, anytime that I needed her, or she can also tell when something's wrong with me, just in the tone of my voice, in the way that I respond in a text message, but there's been times that I've gone through breakups and I've been sad, and she has come over literally after midnight, shown up in her pajamas, face washed with ice cream, and we sit in the bed and we talk.
Or I'm like, hey, come on, come get in my car. You come into my
She'll
house.
come pick me up. So that's just how our friendship operates. And there was even just this one time, which is kind of funny. It was more towards the beginning of our friendship. And
well, let me preface it by saying, Chad always responds.
Always.
Like, he's always there. He always responds. He shows up when he says he's going to show up. And he gets up early.
I do get up early. But, y'all, everybody that knows me can tell you I have way too much energy for my own good. But there comes a time where you crash. So, and they didn't really know that about me at the time. And so I had... I was told Savannah that I would help her move some stuff on a Sunday. But it was one of those times where I went to bed and I just didn't turn my phone on or anything, and I just went to sleep. So my phone was on silent.
No, you cannot do that.
I know. But I wake up probably at like 10:30, 11 to my phone vibrating on my nightstand. And now I sleep with a fan on in my room and a noise machine, so I just couldn't hear anything. So I wake up and it's Julie Chrisley calling me, and I say hello, and she goes, where are you? Are you alive? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, Savannah and Todd are at your house. They're banging on your front door. Now, needless to say, y'all, I lived in a neighborhood in East Nashville, and I didn't tell people what I did. I mean, I knew some of my neighbors, but I'm first of all TMI, but I don't sleep with probably anything on. So I'm trying to find some clothes. My shorts are on backwards. I'm running to the front door because it sounds like they're about to kick it in. And I open the door, and Todd's standing there at my front door, and Savannah's standing behind him with a pink taser, and Todd's Bentley is parked under my stairwell, and all my neighbors are outside like, why are the Chrisleys banging on this guy's door? So
literally his whole complex was like outside. We're sitting there banging. I've got my taser. Like, I'm ready to mess somebody up.
Right.
I was going, like on that second floor where your apartment was.
Right.
I was going to try to climb around, like scale
the balcony. She was supposed to scale the wall. Right.
Yeah.
And my neighbor across the hall was like, hey, y'all, I think he might be just asleep. And they're like, you don't know, Chad. And I was like, oh, God. And so really Todd's like, what is wrong with you? Where have you been? I was like, y'all, I was just sleeping. And they're like, well, that's not normal. So I just said, you know what? I at least know that if I do die in my sleep, I won't be left for long. They will be definitely figuring it out and finding me very quickly.
But that's the thing. It's like, I feel like we need more people like that in our lives, you know, because we live in such a time to where everything's so superficial and everything's about going out and having fun. And granted, there's nothing wrong with going out and having fun. There's really not. But you also need people who genuinely care about you and love you well.
Right.
And that's what I pride myself on. Like, I mean, we ended up getting drugged out to Broadway last weekend. And it's 9:30, and Chad knew, like, I'm looking at him, he's looking at me.
We're like, girl, we should probably bounce out the back door and just not tell anybody. And normally that's what we do. We dip out, and people are like, where are y'all? And we're like, we're at home in the bed already watching some murder mystery on the TV.
But that's the thing, is we can have fun together, but also we've gone through a lot of crap together. And I will say, Chad and I, we had this argument one time. You remember, we're laying in your bed.
Oh,
and
God.
You're just about my dating choices, y'all. And he's just coming at me. And literally, I think I just looked at you that night and I said, enough.
Yeah.
Like,
I could tell I kind of had crossed the line. But here's the deal. This also, there's a difference in our age. Obviously, I'm a lot older than Savannah, but in some ways we're a lot real similar, because even though Savannah is younger, she's grown up on television. So she's a lot more mature than most people her age. So we meet somewhere in the middle a little bit.
We do. And I think you have to, age is truly just a number. I feel like our age is made up of our experiences, trauma, just life.
All the things. And we have a lot of similarities in those ways.
Yes.
But, I do have an advantage in the dating world. So sometimes the advice I'm giving her, and I have to remind myself, okay, I'm giving her this advice as a 45-year-old because I've lived it. But if I was a 25-year-old again, I'd probably be doing the same thing she was doing. But of course, I'm trying to give her the advice because I can see it maybe a little bit differently. But at the end of the day, she's got to live it for herself. So I can give her that advice. So I was kind of going in a little too hard probably on several different of her relationships.
Now, I think one of the things that was fine, if you want to be disrespected, then you go for it.
Right.
It's like, John, I'm not in the mental state to be taking these things right now. And too, I think part of it is learning to meet someone where they're at. Because like you said, all these things because you've been through it, but I haven't necessarily been through it. And there's certain things to where it's like, this is going to sound weird or maybe hard for me to explain, but there's certain situations I feel like we find ourselves in to where we know, like we see these things, but we may not be ready to walk away yet, or we may hope there's change on the horizon, or we're just comfortable in the discomfort for now.
Right.
And that's the hard part. Is the thing about me is I give people chance after chance after chance, and I don't think the world is so black and white and you have good people and you have bad people.
Right.
Like, I just truly don't. I think we all go through seasons to where we may not be as good of a person as we were in the last season, or we're not where we're going to be next season. And we live in a world where we just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right. Well, and two, I'm probably a little bit more jaded because I have lived and she hasn't. So I will cut you off so quick. And I'll have your funeral in a day. I'll cry about it and I won't even remember who you are, which is probably not healthy either. I get that. But we also, too, I think a lot in life, we expect people to react and act the way that we think they should act. When really you have to allow somebody to act and react the way that and where they are in their life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because I may think, oh, they can do better. But in that person's mind, they may be doing the best they can. So we have to give people a little bit of grace to be able to be human and live their experience and go out the way that they need to do it.
I'm totally with you on that. And that's where I struggle too, is just like, it's not that difficult. Why can't you do this, this, and this?
Right, because we have such high standards for ourselves.
Yes.
And not that people don't have certain standards, but they just may not be in that life experience that we're necessarily in. Or they may not be. There are people who are fighters in life, and there are people who let their experiences dictate their life. And that's not me, and that's not you.
Yeah.
But we can expect them to be us.
Exactly. And not everyone's done the work that you've done. Not everyone. When I went to on-site, when they were preparing us to go out back into the normal world, they said, you need to remember that when you leave here, not everyone was at on-site for the past 7 days. Not everyone was sitting here doing intensive therapy. Not everyone was working on themselves. So you have to have grace for other people because they're not where you're at. They haven't uncovered all these things or faced their demons. And so you got to realize that. And you can't hold them to a standard that really they shouldn't be held to.
Right.
And that's kind of where I struggle in my life, is doing that in relationships. And, like, you should know better. You should do this. You should do that. But they weren't raised the same way. They hadn't had the same life experiences. And two, I do want to say, y'all, when I'm talking about relationships, I'm not looking to hide anything. I'm not looking to run from anything. But there are people in my life that do live a more private life. And it is my responsibility to protect their privacy when that's something that means the world to them, because not everyone's grown up on TV like I have.
Right.
And so Chad knows. I've had friends and I've had, people I've dated that are like, I just leave me out of it. And I'm like, 100%. Like, I will respect that. So that's also part of the reason I'm going to be using other names for people, because I want to protect their privacy. But at the same time, I want to take what I'm going through to help other people.
Yeah.
And I think too, that's another thing, is like boundaries.
Yeah. Boundaries. You
and I struggle with that.
Yeah, and I have a hard time with boundaries.
We do. Chad and I both have really hard times with boundaries. And the one thing that I learned in therapy was the people that gripe about you creating boundaries are the same ones who benefited from you not having any.
Right.
And that, I feel like when you start off, what I'm learning right now is that when you start off a relationship, friendship, anything with someone with no boundaries, you're doomed.
Well, and boundaries, people look at boundaries sometimes, I would say unhealthy people, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular because I have been that person and I still am that person. But, boundaries are actually come from a place of love. And they actually allow you to love that person in a more deep, more genuine way.
Yeah.
Because there are people who they don't have any boundaries or they don't respect boundaries because they don't have boundaries for themselves. You know what I mean? So respect is given, and it's also something that you have to earn. You know what I mean? And so people view boundaries. The people that view boundaries as a bad thing are people that don't have the respect and the boundaries for their own lives.
Yeah.
So they don't think that anybody else should have it.
But also, too, my argument to that in a way is like, I feel like sometimes people can be such good people that they don't want to have boundaries for anyone because they're afraid of hurting someone, or they're afraid of, I kind of feel like that's you and I.
That's definitely me. Yeah, me and you.
That's kind of us, is like, we're so afraid of hurting someone or that person walking away that it's like, I would rather be the one to suffer than to create boundaries.
Right, but we got to work on that.
Yeah.
Because that is what keeps us in the wrong situations and around the wrong people more than we should be.
Yeah. 100%. And I think, too, I don't know, like my relationship with Nick. And the only reason I say Nick's name is because that was all in the public eye. So the whole world followed our relationship from beginning to end.
Right.
And there wasn't those boundaries on both sides, really.
Right.
Like, there was times I screwed up, he screwed up. So neither of us are saints.
Right.
But we didn't have those boundaries. And then when we started doing the work, and when I started doing a ton of therapy, I realized how hard it was to implement boundaries when we didn't have any previously.
Right.
And so it takes, like, I feel like creating boundaries will either strengthen a relationship or completely tear it apart.
Right.
And if it tears it apart, that's your sign that this isn't where I needed to be to begin with.
Right. And I think that it's just like you said, it's not that you or he are either one bad people. You just started off with no boundaries and no respect really for each other and each other's life and time and all that stuff. So it's hard to go backwards once you're already halfway through something.
Yes, exactly.
So that's why it's great that you guys have taken a break, a clean break from each other, and are kind of working on yourselves individually.
Yeah.
And, if it's meant to be, like I said, it'll come back around later on in life, but it's just not the right time probably now.
Yeah, no, I think honestly, Nick and I did the back and forth for so long, and we're going to work on ourselves, and then maybe we'll try it. And I think now it's like, since Christmas, it's done. So going on a year, like done. Like, no going back to each other, no, none of that. And sometimes you just need that, and too, when you've been in a relationship with someone for 3.5, 4 years, you want to have enough respect for that person to not hate that person, to still try to, at some point, gain a friendship out of the breakup. But time has to pass. I'm a firm believer time has to pass.
Right. Well, and Savannah can tell you this, in all my breakups, I'm friends with all my exes, every single one of them. And it's because, and again, this may or may not be healthy, but when I go through a breakup, I will block, delete, and not really speak to somebody. And I tell them that. And at first they think that it's cold or that I'm being an asshole or whatever, but I'm really not. I'm really putting a boundary in place to where I can heal from the hurt and the relationship. They can heal from the hurt in the relationship. And then we can come back together as friends, because when you do that, you're actually giving respect to that person. And the people that I've done that to in the beginning, they will, say whatever, but in the end, they thank me and say, it helped me get over you quicker because you created such a strong boundary. Because once you allow that space to happen, you can actually get over it quicker, and you can realize why you like that person in the first place, and also realize maybe they weren't the right person for you. But if you can learn from that relationship and you can take something from it and grow and be better in your next relationship, then it really was not a relationship lost.
Exactly. 110%. That's what I say. And that's the knowledge I've gained through my relationships. And even, we've joked about me once, being on this dating app and, Mr. Wall Street. And, we had restaurant owner.
Yeah.
That was really a general manager, but it's fine. Y'all, it was actually assistant manager. But no shade. Just don't lie to me. Don't lie to me about what you do. There's a big difference between owner and assistant manager. But it's fine. I just don't like a lie. Trust me. I don't have, what does Dad say? I go from Skid Row to Billionaire Row.
Right.
Like, I don't care what you have, what you do. Just don't lie to me.
Just be authentic, be genuine, be honest.
Exactly.
And be vulnerable. Some people think they have to put on a front.
Exactly. And I will say, like you just said, you learn something from each person. So if you allow yourself to not be filled with so much anger and hatred and disappointment from a relationship not working out, then you can take something from it. Because it's just, even Wall Street. I say the one thing I took away from that short little, we weren't even dating. It was just, we were casually dating, talking. And the one thing I took from that was men can communicate.
Yeah.
Like, it is possible when
he is a great communicator.
Yes, great communicator. Like, and there's so much, I think in a way, it kind of brought back a little bit more respect for men on my side, because I feel like I got to a place to where I was just like, holy cow, men don't communicate. They don't care. They don't try to get to know you. All they want to do is get in your pants, and that's it. And I think he taught me that men can communicate. They will put in the work when they have the self-respect and boundaries, and they've done the work. You really have to find those people that are in the same place. They don't have to be in the same place, but you just have to show up as your authentic self. Yes. And I think the most important thing that it taught me as a woman is I don't have to settle. Like, I am worthy of good communication. I'm worthy of someone looking at me and being like, wow, like, I'm so proud of you. Like, that's so amazing. You're such a badass. Your career, everything you're accomplishing. Right. Way to go. So that's what I took from that. Even though I'm not, even though I didn't go into a relationship with this person, I still feel like that person left me better and left me with a sense of like, okay, this has renewed my hope in men and relationships, and I don't have to settle, because I feel like for so long it's like, all right, I don't want to be lonely, or I have so many friends too, like, and that's something I feel like Holly and I will talk about in the coming weeks on here, is we've both discussed how we've settled for people because we didn't want to be alone. Right. When in reality, I feel like those moments are the moments to where we need to dig deep and fix and whatever's going on in us. Right. Well, and two, like you said, Wall Street, when the relationship shifted, he communicated that. Yes. And that's all you really want in life. You just want somebody to be honest with you, even if it's a difficult conversation. Now, Wall Street. Oh, Lord. He communicated. And then he didn't. But he communicated till he didn't. Right. And then went MIA for like a day and a half, 2 days, and then had the nerve to text me and be like, what's going on in Las Vegas? Sir? No. You fell off the map for a reason. Exactly. Don't, and then Christopher Columbus sit back. Okay, this ain't America. I mean, it is, but I'm dead. No, literally. And then it was like, what's going on in Las Vegas? Didn't respond. Then he goes, dead. Never. And then another text. Can't even look at alcohol again, because he went on a friend's birthday trip, which I get. I don't expect you to be on the phone with me 24/7. But the point was that he said, don't worry, I'm going on this trip, but I'll still be texting you every day. Well, he was like, we'll still be communicating as usual. Right. That's not what happened. Right. So he had gone on this trip, went MIA, and then so he sent me that text, dead, then sent me another text that was like, never looking at alcohol again. I just hearted the dead text, because, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you better be dead. Right. That's why there was a lack of communication, because you're 6 feet under. Or you acted like you was dead, which is why I didn't hear from you. Yes. And I responded to his text. So I just hearted it. And then like an hour and a half later, he texted me again and was like, are you mad at me? First off, y'all, if you have to ask someone if they're mad at you, then you already know the answer. And you feel a level of guilt or responsibility coming on for why this person is responding the way they're responding. Exactly. So all I said was, well, I thought we were both ghosting. I'm sorry. Yeah. And checkmate. was like, ha ha. And then that's when he went into, this whole BS spiel that he had. But it was a great communicator, though. That's what I'm saying. I didn't necessarily like the context of it because I think it was like a mind game.
Right.
Of how great of a connection there is, but we should be friends.
Right.
Like, don't pull that. Don't pull a we should be friends with me.
Right.
No, sir. Not happening. But he communicated still at that point in time after a day and a half.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I think too, not just in relationships, in friendships, in families, in life, we've really lost communication.
Yes, we have.
We can't have conversations, even if they're difficult conversations. Even if it's a difficult conversation you have to have with your damn self. You know what I mean? But like nobody has conversations anymore. When they feel uncomfortable with something, they either ghost you or they, say something, or they use this like displaced emotions, anger stuff to create a distraction or an argument. And the thing about it is, if we could just communicate better, and that's in any aspect of life, then we could at least find some middle ground. And you have to have respect for somebody to be able to communicate that way and just say, hey, listen, I hear you. But I don't agree with you, but I respect that. Yes. You know what I mean? So we got to be able to at least have conversations, people.
And that's the thing.
And communicate.
With Wall Street, I felt that level of respect, which is why it's like, hey, I really can't be mad at you.
Right.
Like, yes, you didn't communicate for a day and a half.
Right.
That was a little your sketch.
Right.
But before that, there was a great level of communication, respect, and for that, like, I'm so grateful. Now it's a great friend to have in my life. I think it just, you have to place that person and give it enough time to just be friends. Right. And like you said, with the whole communication, that kind of leads me to the next thing that I wanted to ask you is, you and I've had tough conversations.
We have tough conversations, and we don't agree on everything in life.
No, we don't. And that was kind of the whole point of this podcast too, is to realize that you can disagree but you can still love someone through it. And I feel like through a lot of your life and things that we've discussed, you haven't had a lot of people to love you through the disagreement or the difference of opinions. Right. And that's, I think, because you're gay. We discussed that. But you getting to the
I'm not
point.
gay. My boyfriend is. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a boyfriend.
I love it. That's always been my favorite thing Chad says. I'm not gay, but my boyfriend is. It took you a long time to get to the point of being able to say, yeah, I'm gay. Like, make jokes about it, to be comfortable in it, because that difference of opinion caused you to feel less than a lot of times.
For a long time in my life. And I've been, like Savannah's saying, she's been on site and stuff. I mean, I've been in therapy since I was like 10 years old for a really long time for numerous reasons in my life. And she is right. There was a lot of times where I just didn't have people that understood me or understood who I was. There were always people that understood that I was a good person. I was just hiding a lot of things. So when you're not authentic in your own skin, then you do stuff that's not necessarily authentic to who you are. Yeah. But my Aunt Diane, she loved me unconditionally. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be alive today, because she just got it. And she knew I needed somebody.
That's the thing, is getting through that though. Like, what is some advice you would give to people? I'm going to ask you a question in two different ways. The first way is, what's the advice that you would give to someone who is struggling to be who they are 110%?
Right. Okay. My advice to that would be, I tried my best to not be who I was, to not be gay. My mom took me to all these therapists, Christian counselors, all these people, and finally a Christian counselor told her, like, your son doesn't have a problem. You do, thinking that he shouldn't be who he is because God made him that way. And that really changed the way that I felt about myself. And also I lived in a place, and I'm not, talking down towards where I lived. I lived in a place where
it was very small-minded.
Small-minded, and a lot of the churches are small-minded. And I came to Nashville, and there were preachers in churches and people that loved me to the light, and that's what I would say to people. If you disagree with gay people and you disagree with your children, like, you should love them to the light, not distance yourself or push them away from them. So once I was able to get that love and that compassion from people, then I was able to love myself. And really, you have to love yourself first, because in the commandments, the 10 commandments of the Bible, the first one is to love God above any other God. And the second one is to love your neighbor as yourself. And that last part, as yourself, means that you should be loving yourself for exactly who God made you. And then you should really be loving your neighbor as much as you should be loving yourself.
Yeah.
And that means people that disagree with me being gay will love me. Love me to the light. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't have to be hateful, because there's so many people online and stuff that now that we're friends and I'm a little bit more public and I'm a little bit more on there that say, ooh, gross, or, he just is mooching off the Chrisleys, or he's doing this or he's doing that. And a lot of them I can tell are probably like Christian people who are, and that's fine. And I would say hypocritical Christian people.
Yes, because that's the thing. It's like, I'll look at people's profiles who will say the nastiest things to me. And it's proud mother, lover of Jesus. And I'm sorry, y'all. And that is where there is a disconnect in the church and in religion, is because there's so much judgment, I feel like. And I'm not saying you have to agree with someone's lifestyle.
Right.
I'm not saying, there's so many Christians out here who say, well, in the Bible, it says this about being gay. Well, what does it say in the Bible about sex before marriage? Guilty. About using the Lord's name in vain? Guilty.
Right.
Talking about money, like the love of money, guilty.
In the same paragraph where it would say, a man to lie with a man, a woman to lie with a woman, in that same verse, it says to eat shellfish is an abomination, to touch pigskin is an abomination, to wear an article of more than one clothing, to cut your hair. And everybody's like, oh, well, that's outdated, but we're going to hold on to this. So you can't cherry pick what feels comfortable to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And two, it's everyone's, though, one thing I do want to preface, though, is everyone has a different interpretation of the Bible. It's literally, you ask the person next to you, it's going to be different. It's like the telephone game.
Right.
Everyone has a different interpretation. And it's not my responsibility to tell someone what they should believe, how they should believe it. But I know for me that Christianity and God is loving people and loving people well.
Right.
And it's not up to me to go and account to say, oh, you're sinning, you're doing this, you're doing that. I don't want someone doing it to me. So I believe in being a good person, and you can disagree with things. Like, you can, first off, too, I just want to preface, if someone being gay is an issue for anyone, you got some bigger issues. Like, there's way more going on in our world than who someone else chooses to love. Exactly. And so that's on you.
Right.
But I think it's the biggest thing is you and I, we're two completely different people.
Right.
There's things we don't agree on medically, politically.
Right.
Just in real, like in life and day to day.
But we have difficult conversations that can get a little heated, but if they're getting heated, we're friends enough and we respect each other enough, like, hold up, I don't want this to be an argument. I want to hear you, you want to hear me. And we hear each other and we agree to disagree and we move on, because it's not big enough issues to let it divide us. And that's what's really happening is everybody's so divided because they get into arguments. And they get into arguments because if somebody says something that they don't agree with, they immediately attack them. Well, if you want somebody to actually hear you, maybe contact that person privately, or contact that person if they're your friend and just say, hey, listen, this hurt me, and this is why. Because if you can come from a place of hurt, people will listen to you.
Yes.
But if you come from a place of anger, people immediately stop listening, and they immediately are trying to figure out how they can respond to you in a way of also anger. So if we can't come from a place of hurt and understanding and compassion and kindness and have difficult conversations, but in a level of respect, then there's no way for us to get back to the middle, which is where we should be.
100%. I remember back when I think I was like 17 and I was dating Blair. And at that time, I remember his mom telling me. It's just something, certain things that happen that are just like mind. Stick with you. And she said, if you would say what you did made me feel this way.
Right.
People can't argue with a feeling, you know, like you hurt me. Like this made me feel disrespected. It made me feel whatever way you're feeling.
Right.
It's easier for someone to kind of meet you where you're at
versus
accusing someone or degrading, speaking down.
Right.
It's no one can meet you there.
Right. Well, and it's because you're actually telling someone that they may not have meant to do that, but that's the way it made you feel. Mm-hmm. So nobody genuinely wants to hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if they do, the saying, hurt people, hurt people. So, it just all goes back to respect and how you communicate with someone, because I just feel like we're all so angry and so divided right now that we just can't have conversations.
Yeah.
No, and we should be able to.
There's none of that. We live in such a divided world and country right now. We've got all kinds of all the election crap that divides people. And it's like, y'all, let's be real. All politicians are liars.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're on the left, the right, the middle, the whatever you are.
It's all dirty. Politics are just dirty in general. I would never want to be a politician.
Exactly. So all of that's dirty. So why are we going to allow really something that is not in our control to
divide us?
Divide
families.
Family.
Yeah. All these people.
Nothing is ever more important than love and your family and your relationships.
Right. And it all goes back to what you said just a few minutes ago. I'm not going to harp on it. But you just were talking about Christianity and how people, well, you know what, guys? We're not the only religion in the world. But I can tell you this because I've studied it enough, because I've had to, because I have to defend myself sometimes with religious views. And that's a whole different podcast and a whole different conversation. So I'm not going to get into that. But every religion around the world, mostly, the main takeaway from those religions is love, mercy, grace, understanding, acceptance, kindness. So if you're using any type of religion, Christianity, any kind of religion, for anything besides that, then you are loving and doing it wrong. Because if Christ were here today, he would not be out here attacking people and calling people names or, dividing them. He would be hanging out with all the people that are broken, all the people that need love. So what we need to do more in life and in society right now is just love each other and try to understand where people are coming from in their hurt.
Because everyone's hurting. In a way, everyone's hurting. Mm-hmm. And if you would take time to get to know people, you may not agree with their story. Right. You may have different points of view, but you could understand why they're at where they're at in their story and why they've made certain decisions and why it's easier to have different points of view when you understand where someone's coming from. Instead of just saying, this is what works. It's not black and white. What works for one doesn't work for everyone. And
it's not. There's a lot of great issues in a lot of different topics that we're not going to touch on because we don't want to polarize or be divisive on here either. The main thing we want to do is let them get to know, especially you better.
Yeah.
I think the thing about it is what you were saying, and my mind just went dead.
Mind just went dead. Y'all, Chad and I will have so many conversations and he's like, my mind just went dead. I don't know what I was saying.
Yeah.
I think it's just, like we've said, loving people and loving people well. And I'm guilty of not doing that real well.
Well, I was going to say this. My mind just woke back up. I was just going to say it's easy to judge somebody from a distance. It's easy to attack somebody from a keyboard or somewhere else. But it's just like I told my family and my mom and them when we're having difficult conversations about different types of people. I would say, you guys used to feel a certain type of way about gay people, and now you have a gay son, and your views have changed. And that is that you can't hate somebody up close. If you have somebody, and if you feel a certain way towards somebody, towards gay people, black people, Muslims, Asian, any type of people, if you get to know those people, your views will change because you will see everybody on this planet in some way is just trying to do the best they can.
And we all just want to be loved.
We all want to be loved. We want to be happy. We want our families to do well. You know, and there's so much displaced emotions and displaced anger because of things. But, you know, ultimately, you can't hate somebody up close. So get to know people if you don't understand them. Reach out to that person. Go have coffee with them. You know what I mean?
And I'm not saying, and that's one thing I want to preface, is we're not saying this to, oh, you always have to cave in to what someone else says, or you have to give up your opinions and beliefs. You don't. But your opinions and you don't have the right to bring hurt on someone else with your opinions and beliefs.
Right.
There's a way to be respectful while disagreeing with someone. So
me and Savannah, we ain't changed none of our beliefs.
No.
She still feels the way she feels. I still feel the way I feel. But because of conversations we've had, I understand why she feels the way she does on certain issues. She understands why I feel a certain way. And we can still stand strong in those issues and beliefs and love each other, because that's what we're put on this earth to do. You're put on this earth to live, to be grateful, and to give back.
100%. And so I think with that, it's like, that's why I want to bring on all my friends to this podcast too, because you all bring something different to the table.
Yeah.
Like, you're bringing this to the table. Holly's going to bring her story to the table, which is just like mind blowing. And she can be batshit crazy. Yeah. She can, but she's
wild.
I love her to death. Like, some of the things that she'll say sometimes, it's like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah, but she's authentic.
She is.
You don't ever have to wonder anything about her.
And she is the most loyal human being out there. It's the craziest. Like, it's just, those are the people you want in your lives. And so she's going to come on next, I think. I'm also going to have Mom and then Dad. But I do, Chad. Let's see. I'm trying to think of something. Why are you why's your body?
I don't know. I'm always afraid of what she's supposed to ask me. I'm like, oh, God.
I'm dead. No, I think, we've obviously talked about a lot of really intense things, but I do want to touch on all the fun that we have too. Because
we get in a lot of trouble.
Yes, we do. Lord
that
help
we won't
us.
talk about.
Lord help us.
Yes.
We've got, all of our fun little outings that we do.
Yeah.
And two, I think we're...
Oh, God.
You know what I want to bring up right now.
What?
No, just Please, the Jesus. Dating world in general. God. Y'all, I'm dating people that are like Chad's age. So now we're at a place to we're playing in the same pond. Right.
And I date mostly people that are Savannah's age.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not playing in the same pond. Correct me. I'm dating in your age group. You're dating in mine.
And my mom always says, why you always drive the school bus? And I'm like... Listen, nobody my age wants to get on the bus. I don't know what to tell you. It's probably because I have a youthful spirit.
But that's exactly what I said to Dad. Because Dad's like, why are you out here trying to date all these older men? I was like, Todd, with all due respect, it's not like I walk around with a sign on my forehead that says, everyone 40 and up, come my way.
Right.
Like, buy a ticket. No, I don't. It just happens. Those just totally happen to be the people that I connect with. And y'all, don't count out the old stallions,
Oh, Jesus, take the wheel.
I'm just saying.
Here we are. We have pulled up to the stalls and we are talking about the stallions. So the thing about it is, though, is, I have a youthful spirit, and Savannah, again, growing up on TV, has created a much more mature person for someone her age. Yeah. She has businesses, she's lived, and so there are just guys that are her age that don't get her, you know what I mean? No. Or can't get her, or she kind of has a bigger penis than them. You know what I mean? Can I say that?
Yes, you can say it. Yeah. But no, I think...
It demasculates them a little bit because Savannah's such a powerful person. So if it's a guy that's a little bit older, they kind of think that what she does is a little cute, and they're not intimidated by it. But your dad and your mom have both said you needed to date older. Maybe they didn't mean as older as my age, but,
They did.
Spin the wheel, Vanna. What you going to get?
Exactly. They said older. I think they meant like maybe 10 years max. Right. But to each their own. I think I've lived so much life and I'm tired of these boys keyword boys, being intimidated by what I bring to the table and me feeling like I have to dim my light in order for theirs to shine brighter.
Hallelujah.
And it's not, and again, I do want to apologize for what I just said because it's not a diss. It's just
a fact. It's a fact of where people are.
And it's what we said is you can't expect people to meet you where they just don't have the ability to meet you right now.
Right.
And so I think if I would have listened or seen a lot of signs earlier on in past relationships, then maybe I wouldn't have gotten so far into it.
Right.
But that goes back to me being insecure and not having enough guts to be like, hey, I'm out, can't do this.
Right.
I think for so long I also fought like being with someone significantly older because of the stigma, what it's going to look like, what it's just, you can't help who you connect with. Now, y'all ain't saying I'm out here with like a 70-year-old. Calm down. This ain't no,
right.
Whatever. But even just like 15, 20, 25 years older, like
pushing it.
Oh, I'm kidding. No, just you can't help who you connect with. And there are certain people that come into your life for seasons and reasons. And if we learn to view relationships that way, it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because there have been people who have come in my life to where it's like, God knew I needed you right at that time.
Right.
Like God knew that you were going to show up for me how I needed to be shown up for then.
Right.
Or we were just going to have laughs and we were going to do fun stuff. And people just show up for different seasons of life.
Right.
And that's okay.
There's different people that bring different things to the table.
Yeah.
And there's some things that they bring to the table that are beneficial. And there's some things that they bring to the table that you don't want. It's just like food. There's some shit you bring to the table that you want to eat, and there's some stuff you don't want to eat. You know what I mean? So, but what you get from it and what you take from it, that's what's important. And that's what matters is what those people bring and what it may be that you need at that moment in your life.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this, don't cuss me out. But it's just the truth. But like you're so mature in so many ways, but growing up on TV has created a lot of insecurities, but you're starting to come into who you really are, especially working on yourself, going to on-site. So your power has shifted and is changing, and you're starting to really respect yourself more and have more of that in you. So again, that is triggered some people, some friends around you because you are coming into that. So if you change and they don't, it's threatening to those people.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay to lose some people along the way.
Right, exactly.
Because like you said, with me growing up on TV, I think, even after the first 2 episodes of this podcast, I saw there's been all kinds of positive feedback, positive comments, people saying how much this has helped them.
Right.
And for that, I'm so grateful. But it goes back to that saying of like, you can have 1,000 good comments and 1 bad one, and you're going to remember that bad one.
Right.
And it's someone saying, oh, I don't want to hear you talk about your issues.
Right.
Try having real world issues. And I'm like, excuse me?
Right.
Like, you want to talk about real world issues now.
Right.
I got 2 parents who are going through this huge legal battle right now, who I may have to live the rest of my life without them.
Right.
So come at me about real world issues.
Right.
And that's the hardest part is we're not all, I'm not sitting here, poor pitiful me. I'm not, because I have fought my whole life. I'm not going to be a victim of any circumstance.
Right.
That's not who I am. I don't think the victim mentality is attractive for me.
Right.
I don't, because and when you have had to go through things that you have been a victim of, I don't feel that is a word you want to be used to describe you.
Right. Well, here's the things in life, and I've been through a lot of therapy, so this is my therapist part coming out. In life, you're all going to have things that happen to you. You can either be a victim or you can be a victor.
Yep.
And there's so many people that live in that victim mentality. And it's not, they can't help it. Maybe they've not had the resources to help them get out of that victim mentality. But being in that victim mentality only hurts you as an individual.
Yeah.
Until you can realize if you can take the experience that you had and that pain and turn it into a lesson and turn it into making you a stronger person, then that was an experience that needed to happen to get you to a place that God is setting you up for other things to happen.
And I think,
and I'll say this, pain is inevitable.
Yep.
Suffering is optional.
100%. That's been one of my favorite things that Chad said. And for me, I can say the things about being a victim of a circumstance because I was so comfortable in a victim mentality for so long. And I think the reason for that is because you're afraid of who you're going to be without that hurt. You're afraid of, if I let this hurt go, does it mean that it didn't happen? Does it, like, who am I going to be? And I think that holds so many people back from forgiveness and truly living a fulfilled life, because it's, if I forgive you, then it takes away from what happened. That doesn't. At the end of the day, you forgive people for yourself, not for them. And I'm never going to look to have that victim mentality on this podcast, but I do go through shit. And that's the hard part, is I go through stuff, and I'm not, what you're going through isn't any bigger than mine. What I'm going through isn't any bigger than yours. It's just, we're all going through stuff, and we don't have the right to
pick and choose what's important for somebody else. Or say, so those comments, and it comes, the thing about it is, people, is this. It is so important how you speak to other people, but it is most importantly, so important how you speak to yourself.
Exactly. I just saw a interview with Kendall Jenner and Jay Shetty, and I love Jay. I love listening to his podcast, and it was Kendall Jenner talking about one of her therapy sessions with her therapist, and she said, I knew that I needed to work on how I spoke to myself, because I look in the mirror and I see different things, and I talk down to myself, and I struggle with all these things. And her therapist encouraged her to find a picture of her as a kid. And she said she was scrolling through, she found this picture, and she printed it off. Her therapist wanted her to put it on her mirror, and she put it on her mirror, and her therapist said, next time you want to say something negative about yourself and degrading, look at her and say it.
Right.
And she knew you can't do that, because that little kid doesn't deserve those things. So if that little kid doesn't deserve those things, then you don't deserve those things. And that helped her to change her viewpoint on herself, because she loved that little girl she saw. She loved the happiness. She loved the smile. She loved the innocence. And so I think that's something that I encourage everyone to do, is to find something like that that's going to help you view yourself in a different light and not be so hard on yourself. Because I look at pictures of me as a kid, and I'm like, that is one bad bitch. I didn't care. I would go out here dressed in basketball shorts. I'd have hair all over my head. I'd have crap all over my face. I loved that carefree spirit, and that's what I'm trying to get back to, because I've lived my life for so long being on TV of trying to please everyone else but myself. Right. And so I think you've seen the transition of myself.
I totally have. From when I first met you till now is huge, because you've put in the time, you've put in the work, and you've put in the energy to become a better person from the things that have happened to you and continue to happen to you. And they're going to continue to happen to you as time goes on. But it's how we deal with them, it's how we process it, and it's how we use those as tools to project us into our future that God has intended us to have.
100%. So I think, you know what, Chad? I just want to thank you for coming on my podcast.
Of course.
And I love you so much.
I love you so much.
I don't know where I'd be without you. I really don't.
Same.
It's at this point in life, y'all, you will see a wedding of mine. You will. It may just be with Chad.
Yeah. Just kidding. We're not going down that road. We don't want to confuse y'all again now.
I'm kidding. Yeah. But
I'll be in the wedding, but I won't be
Y'all, he was going to be like my maid of honor in my wedding.
Man of honor.
Man of honor. Sorry.
I'm gay, but I'm not a girl.
Whatever. No, I love you so much. And thank you for
much.
coming on and opening up your heart to people and showing them who you are. And maybe your story can help save a lot of other people who are struggling with their identity and their self. And I just love you.
Thank you. I love you so much. Thank you for having me. I think you're an amazing person. You know that.
Love you. I'll see you at the corner pub later.
Okay, see you at the corner pub. Fried pickles. Let's go.